Oi, what's the best game where you get to eat pie? What's the best game where you play a dead guy? You'll find out in VG247's podcast. Here, what's the best game where you swing from a rope? And what's the best game where you batter the Pope? That's Street 2. Like I said, you will find out in this here podcast. Hello and welcome to VG247's Best Games Ever podcast, where we attempt to find the best game within a category that we've made up to be knobheads. For example, this week we're looking for the best game with the most juvenile feature. This could go anywhere. Everything seems juvenile once you reach a certain age. Isn't that right, Tom?
I'm sorry. Is that like my angry at the kids? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying, you know, you're getting on
Old
a bit
man
now,
shouts
innit?
at cloud.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's juvenile when you're like emotionally in your 70s, right? Okay, so Connor, you had an outburst last time you were on because you didn't win.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go back to fighting games if I haven't.
Yeah, because I think Tom at some point has successfully convinced you that talking about a subject that you know very well was actually hurting your chances, and then proceeded to make you lose essentially for the next 13, 14 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
So you've abandoned that advice now. Okay, let's see how you do. So so it's the best game with the most juvenile feature, and I first want to hear from Tom, because Tom, your pick is I think what a lot of people are going to immediately think of.
Yeah, I mean, I think I came up with this topic, immediately gave him my choice. I didn't want to be like, remember when it was Resident Evil and I wasn't allowed to choose it because Kelsey had picked it. So I thought, I'm just going to pick the topic and immediately give you my choice. So there's not, I mean, I'm quite short for time, so I'm not going to give you a big story about it.
You haven't put much thought into it, is what you're trying to tell us.
Not really. I mean, I haven't got much to say other than, so the game is Fable 2, right?
Yeah.
Give you a little backstory. So at the time, Fable 2, I was really into Flight of the Conchords, right? Yeah. And one of the guys from that is called Jermaine, right? And I liked Tim Vine because he had some really terrible quick jokes. Yeah, and he had a joke about badminton, about talking to his dog, telling him like badminton, right? That was a big thing at the time. So in Fable 2, I had a dog called Dog Minton Jermaine. There you go. Why not?
Okay.
Dog Minton Jermaine. And it could piss on people.
And you can, if I can't remember Fable 2 very well. I remember liking it, but that was a thing that you trained the dog to do, wasn't it? You could, like, if it pissed on something, you would reward it, and then it would learn that eventually it would get the gist that if it pissed on people.
To be honest, I mean, I can't remember. I was going to watch a YouTube video to check how this worked, but
yeah,
I didn't. But all I can say is that it definitely peed on people. That is funny and juvenile.
I remember it used to dig up condoms as well. Like you could get it to dig for treasure, and 9 times out of 10 when you would send it digging, it would come back and bring you a condom, which is a lot like real England.
Yeah.
Where were you digging?
Just like, anywhere in Fable's world.
Anywhere in Fable's world, there's condoms all over the place.
Yeah, by riverbanks and stuff, you know. It's just like, just like Britain, isn't it? I thought you were going to go for just like, I don't know, the standard, like, you know, the fart button when you can shit yourself in front of people. And,
that's a bit low for me. I'm not that juvenile. I wouldn't, that's just a bit basic, isn't it? But the dog pissing on people is quite...
Yeah, that is...
I don't know how other people, like over here in England, where we like this kind of stuff, I don't know how it translated elsewhere. Like, did the Americans like the dog pissing on people? I don't know. Like, how did they react to that? Don't know.
I don't. Well, if you are American and you're listening, please write in and tell us.
Nobody from America. I look at the stats all the time. Nobody from America listens.
Is there not about 12 people from America who listens to this?
Maybe, but they're probably like people traveling from the UK.
Yeah, they're probably like all people who work at this website, just on overseas trips. Right. Okay. So, all right. The Fable dog pissing on people. I loved the Fable dog in Fable 2. I called mine Leonard Nimoy because it made me laugh every time I saw it come up in the menu. All right. Okay, right. I'm going to hear from Connor next because I'm very interested. Because you seem to have this. I don't know if you just invent them for this particular podcast and manifest them, but you seem to have an endless well of sort of fighting games that are odd.
This isn't a fighting game.
Is it not? Okay.
No. Right. This, in fact, was a game that's popular and made tons of money, which is how you know it's not a fighting game.
Okay. Right, okay.
My pick is Goddess of Victory Nikkei.
What?
Okay.
Goddess of Victory Nikkei is a Korean...
Sorry, let's go back. Popular, made lots of money.
Yeah.
Popular what, in your little dweeb circles?
No, it's actually popular among fans of gacha and spending tons of money on anime girls and guns.
Are we back on nonsense again?
No. Well, maybe. I can't
Connor, we had that chat on Slack.
We didn't have that chat on Slack.
About what not to bring up on the podcast.
That was about a marketing deck, wasn't it?
Goddess of Victory Nikkei is apparently a third-person sci-fi role-playing game.
It is.
Sounds pretty good.
So let me break it down for you. It's been developed by a Korean studio called Shift Up, which are published by a branch of Tencent. Basically, it's in a post-apocalyptic future. Humanity flees underground from aliens, and you play the role as this commander with a squad of Nikkeis, which are these artificial soldiers, each of their like unique guns and stuff. It's like a third-person shooter where each of your characters take cover behind basically a wall. In each stage, there's a wall you take cover behind, and you shoot at enemies, and you have unique skills and abilities and stuff, and you switch out your characters when you need to reload or whatever. It's confirmed to be influenced by the Gears of War series,
okay,
which is a sin, I guess, to that series because this game is crazy. And the feature I'm talking about is the classic. It's unbelievable jiggle physics. Because when you shoot your gun, so each of your guns are like these high caliber, like SMGs, LMGs, sniper rifles. And every time you shoot, because of the way your character's positioned in like a Gears of War style, like crouched behind cover, the bits of your character go mental. They start jiggling all over the place. And it is a feature. It's a highly marketed feature. In fact, there was some big controversy around a Thailand commercial they did where they basically depicted what they saw as the average Goddess of Victory Nikkei fan as this guy who was sitting at his own birthday party, bouncing up and down and fantasizing about anime women.
You're not convincing me here.
So it's
this podcast, Connor, right? It's the best games, right?
It
not
is
random rubbish you found on the internet when you Googled.
Goddess of Victory Nikkei made over $70 million in its first month of release. It's since made $100 million.
That doesn't make it good, Connor.
It does.
Have you played it, Connor?
I have, for research for this podcast, downloaded it on my phone, and I did play it.
Is it good? Is it good? Like, is the shooting good?
I'll tell you what, it's not awful.
Okay, all right. Well,
it's really not. It's actually pretty great.
Hang on, I think I've seen adverts for this game, and all the adverts are like they're lying down firing sniper rifles, and every time they fire the gun, it's all about the ass wiggling.
That's the feature.
This is
that's the juvenile feature. Right,
Connor, Connor.
Yeah, but the fact that they put this front and center in the advertising as well, this is what I'm saying. I just Googled it, and as soon as I Googled it, I was like, I've seen ads for this game. I can't believe you downloaded this. You'll be on a list.
Yeah,
and also,
on a list for sure.
Connor, imagine this. There's an advert, and they're going to play it in front of like something. Imagine your family watch this program. You're all sat together watching it.
Yeah,
and there's an advert coming on in front of it, and they want you to give a quote, and your quote on this advert is
it's awful,
it's actually pretty great. That's what you said. It's actually pretty great, and that would be you, Connor Macker. Attributed to you. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, kind of, sure. Like, in a weird way, it reminded me of like playing Time Crisis at the bowling alley.
Please don't say this. Please don't.
Kinda. I was like, this is kind of all right.
Time Crisis when you're talking about this.
But like, Yeah, it's a hugely popular game among fans of the gacha genre of that sort of game. People still play it a lot. It's still growing. It recently had a Chainsaw Man promotion, which for people who don't know is like this massive new anime that's coming out and people love.
Yeah, people love Chainsaw Man.
It's got a bunch of quests in it. It's got like a ton of characters it's adding all the time. I think it had a Guilty Gear crossover, but I might be crazy. We actually, Tom may not know this, we discussed doing a codes page for it on VG247, but our SEO team was like, let's not do this because of said feature.
I mean, that says a lot, doesn't it? That says everything we need to know.
One of the lead developers was interviewed by IGN Japan and said to them that the battle environment features life-size models instead of chibi-style characters in order to quote-unquote amplify the sex appeal.
But they are chibi-style characters. Like, I'm looking at trailers now.
This is...
I'm quite happy.
YouTube history.
I'm quite happy that I don't know what chibi means. No clue. I have no idea what that means.
One more thing. I have to mention this. It was first revealed alongside... do you remember that Project Eve game that we saw at the PlayStation Showcase? It was first showcased alongside that game at an event called Crank, the Crank Showcase in 2019.
Jesus Christ, I'm too tired for this.
But the point of this pick, right, and why I picked it is because this is like video game juvenile at its like marketed at its peak, at its most
Is it
egregious,
juvenile
right?
or is it just scumbags?
Well, I knew this would come up, which is why I'm grabbing my phone. I messaged Jim Trinker on
He got a doll. He's picking up a doll or
for
something.
a definition.
right, first of all, I don't
For a
remember.
definition of what juvenile meant in the context of this question.
All right, okay, read it out. What I said to you, fine, that's fine.
I guess I would accept any definition from fart and willy jokes to backward/archaic politics or just this game is designed for children but very good. I said, would you quantify outrageous jiggle physics as a feature? You said, yeah. So it does.
Yeah, I mean,
What's all this chat around?
I thought you were doing Dead or Alive.
I would have done it all live. I couldn't do it again.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah, it's a very popular game. People love it. I don't love it yet. I don't know. Maybe in time I'll just give up on life and like. But it's great.
Let's just move on. Jim, Connor's out.
No, I'm not out. You mentioned Fable 2, the most milquetoast, boring ass game in the world. The dog's pissing on people.
Yeah,
I bring up something new that you haven't heard about because it's not 30 years old, and you're like, "Oh, it's a rubbish pick."
I'll tell you what. When you said it was based on the appeal of like Gears of War, the one thing that people complain about with Gears of War is when you shoot a gun, Marcus Phoenix's hams don't fucking wobble.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Donaldson, can you please bring this back to some level of sanity?
There was only ever one choice for this category for me, which is just I just immediately was like, well, I've mentioned it on the podcast before. What is my favourite game that's a little bit juvenile? And the answer, of course, is 50 Cent Blood on the Sand.
Is this the first time you've actually entered it?
It is the first time I've entered it. I've only ever mentioned it in context.
I was going to say it's been mentioned about 50 times on the podcast, but this is the first time it's actually.
I always call it like the ultimate example of a B tier video game. B movies. Everyone knows what a B movie is. I feel like people always struggle to define a B video game, but it is the very definition of that in terms of the size of the budget, the fact that they attached this known name to it, and of course there'd been a previous 50 Cent game. There'd been was it called Get Rich or Die Trying, like the album? Was it called? It's called Bulletproof, wasn't it? They'd done 50 Cent Bulletproof on the PS2, which was quite a serious, dour GTA clone.
It was a PSP game too, no? That was classic. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was on PSP as well, as all those games were, but the main version was PS2 and Xbox, right? And it was extremely mid and extremely boring, and GTA clones were 10 a penny back then, and it was one of the worst ones where you had stuff like Scarface that was genuinely quite good. And when they decided to make a second 50 Cent game, which still astonishes me that they decided to make a second 50 Cent game, it's an extremely funny sentence to me, they made the decision to basically make a more serious a less serious game. Sorry, so they made the decision to make a game that was knowingly silly, basically, and knowingly juvenile. And it's just juvenile top to bottom, whatever way you want to think about it. Juvenile gender politics, check. Juvenile. You've got to keep in mind this game was made in 2009. Juvenile viewpoint on the Middle East, as the name of the game suggests. Where the story of the game is literally that 50 Cent performs a concert in an unnamed Middle Eastern country. And
I fancy my chances of winning this week. I won't lie. I think I might have won.
Honestly, I think the winner goes to the least problematic this time.
And 50 Cent and G Unit are playing this concert in an unnamed Middle Eastern country. And after the concert, the promoter, who is a good guy, basically he can't pay them the 10 million in cash he's promised them. I don't know if G Unit were regularly playing for 10 million a gig in these days, maybe, and instead pays them in a crystal skull. A diamond and pearl encrusted skull, and then as soon as they leave the it's just funny thinking about it. As soon as they leave the venue, in their giant Hummers, a terrorist group attacks 50 Cent and G Unit and steals the skull. And the leader of the terrorist group is a sexy lady who 50 Cent has a terrible sort of sexual tension with. And actually, she's sort of the second in command. She's not the leader. And 50 Cent and G Unit then go on a killing spree in a Gears of War clone in order to get back his. As he often tells people throughout the game, that bitch took my skull. And it's juvenile in every sense. It's juvenile in the sense of. Its worldview and all that sort of stuff. It's extremely, retrograde. It's juvenile in the sense of, and this is no hit on the developers, but it's juvenile in the sense of the way it approaches even its design, where it's just this Gears clone, but then it's literally juvenile because 50 Cent and members of G Unit and their sons used to fly out to the UK where it was being developed. They'd presumably fly into Birmingham International Airport and would rock up. And so, for instance, they were halfway through development and they had to add car chases because 50 Cent just turned up at one of the code reviews and was like, I think we need car chases. And then another time, 50 Cent, this was told brilliantly by one of the developers in an interview in Edge, because Edge did one of their how it was made, time extend things on this game. Quite late in development, 50 Cent turned up with his 7-year-old son. And his 7-year-old son said, why aren't there any helicopters? And so they had to crowbar several fights against helicopters into the game because a 7-year-old said so. And if that's not juvenile, I don't know what is. And then, of course, the thing that I've mentioned before in this game is it took the Project Gotham thing, the kudos combo system thing, and so that's one of the ways the game sort of has some replayability compared to a Gears or something, is you can go back through the levels and try to rack up a high score. Something that a couple of episodes ago we mentioned, the club, similar to that, but actually better than that game in my opinion. And my absolute favorite feature is it's got a dedicated taunt button. And so basically if you're between enemies, and if you're between enemies and you're trying to keep your combo meter up, one of the things you can do is you can press, I think it's like right bumper or left bumper, and whoever you're playing as will throw out a taunt. Actually, the funny thing is, I was trying to look this up for this podcast, and Ryan King wrote a guide for the official Xbox 360 magazine that was just a list of all the taunts that 50 could say. But also, that's not even all of them, because you can play as multiple members of G Unit as well, and they've all got unique voice acting and all got unique taunts. So basically, it's just a great feature where you shotgun someone's face off, and then to give yourself a multiplier, you press a button and 50 Cent shouts, "You're fucking dead," or "This is fucked, man," or "Game over, bitch." and a lot of other ones that have slurs that I won't repeat. It's just great. It's just, and that is a feature where if I think back to myself, if I put myself into my 13, 14-year-old self, who was obsessed with South Park, not because of the satire about the world or politics or anything like that, but just because of the, Cartman's Mum is a Bitch song. If I put myself in those shoes, that feature alone would have, at that time, I was too old by this point, but that feature alone would have at that time made this my favourite game of all time. So I got to pick it. It's even when you look on a higher level, like I say, I think you replay that game now, and there's definitely a tone of they set a game in the Middle East because every war game was set in the Middle East at that time because we were involved in a horrific illegal war there. And you look at that bit and you wince. But also I will say it's a good game in the sense of even better than Black Panther. It manages to get through this whole game, and it's all about brown people, and they don't need to have a Martin Freeman swoop in as their token white good guy. And they've got plenty of bad guys and good guys on both sides, people on both sides. So the representation is actually probably better than some games even now in that sense. But I just love what a ridiculous mess it is. The story is like it was written by a child. Well, not a child, by a teenager. That's the very specific thing. The story, the taunts, the design, it all feels very much like it could have been done by a teenager. It wasn't. Very talented team that worked on this game. But it's just got that feel, and it's just glorious. You even have to unlock the taunts. So you earn points by getting kills and getting high scores and stuff, and you use that to unlock better cursing to throw at people. It's a great game.
So this is right. Okay. So that's pretty juvenile. It sounds like once again, 50 Cent Blood in the Sand has dimensions of complexity that are not immediately apparent.
The thing I want to say also is, and this is the thing I can't stress enough, because it's like, it is a bit of a meme. There's me and some other people on Twitter who often talk about this game, and I often post just a link to the YouTube video that is just like the 50 Cent Blood on the Sand movie where someone has spliced together all the cutscenes. Which is a must watch. And it is sort of that B-movie thing because it is slightly terrible. It is slightly terrible. But the thing is, this is a pretty damn good, competent Gears of War clone. It's one of the better ones because there were a lot of them, and I would rather play this than a lot of the. I mean, even recently, that Outriders game that Square and People Can Fly did.
Army of Two?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Also, it's got co-op, so it's got the Army of Two element as well.
Is it better than Goddess of Victory Nikkei though?
No. Well, I mean,
as a Gears clone. Connor, have you played 50 Cent Blood in the Sand?
I have played that game, yeah.
All right. Is the shooting better or worse than Goddess of Victory?
No, absolutely not. There are two dimensions of Goddess of Victory. One is the guns and the shooting, which is, really great. And the second is the butts.
Marketed
with, quote, intense shooting of one-handed control. I don't know. You mentioned a line of, like, when I was younger, would I have liked this game? If I was younger and playing Goddess of Victory, I would have been, like, all sorts of messed up. It would have changed my life. So,
well, yeah, because of the one-handed control, it would have led to a crippling addiction. The one thing I will say is 50 Cent Blood on the Sand is a game where the protagonists constantly call the female lead a bitch, and there's prostitution and all sorts in it, and yet it still has more positive gender politics than Goddess of Victory Nikkei.
I'll have you know that originally the characters in Goddess of Victory Nikkei were going to have less clothes on, but the publishers were like, hang on a minute.
Well done, game.
Absolutely nice.
The publishers were like, hang on, come on, guys. We need to respect women with this game. And so they gave them more clothes. You're actually wrong.
I'm sure that's what they thought.
All right, we're gonna cut to an ad break and play that jingle. And then I'm gonna make the deliberation that everyone knows I'm gonna make just to save the reputation of the company. Right. All right. Okay. So,
look, all I'll say is no one on this podcast ever put themselves on the list to win. Okay.
well, fucking Donaldson did last year.
Okay, it's true. Yeah,
I was going to say all that the protestations of a man who brought Galgun into this fucking conversation. Right. Okay.
To be fair, I think Donaldson didn't pick it up quite as much as Connor has for this.
To be fair, the game
piece of trash.
The game in that instance was the best game that was basically going to cause aliens to nuke the planet. So.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm not even going to pretend that I'm torn about this. Right. I'm just going to say it. Okay. Right. So the best game of these three, objectively the best game and the least problematic, and the only one that has dogs pissing on people, is Fable 2. So Tom's one. So Tom has not been.
I would actually replay 50 Cent Blood on the Sand before I replay and I like Fable 2.
Listen, I like Fable 2 as well. It's unplayable now, but back in the day, it was a moment. And look, Tom has for once not been robbed. I think a lot of people might claim that Connor's been robbed, but
no, people are going to say that. People know that 50 Cent Blood on the Sand.
Nobody is going to dialogue.
You need to hear the dialogue in this game and understand how juvenile it is. I literally just loaded up the movie. Everything is for sale here. Drugs, guns, bombs, chemical weapons, and 50 Cent says...
I think there will be a lot of debate about this one, about which one of you guys has been robbed, and everyone in Connor's corner is going to be possibly like the sort of Twitter account that you wouldn't want to follow. But I mean,
I'll say is that there's a group of like 2 or 3 people who always have my back on the podcast, and I will give them up to the police for a plea deal to get me out of jail in an instant. So,
all right, okay, Fable 2 is the best game with the most juvenile feature, which is training your dog to piss on people. I mean, that's brilliant, isn't it? Let's come on now. No other game lets you train a creature to piss on people, apart from possibly Black and White from the same guy.
You know what? I actually took a picture once out of a car window. Don't know how it happened, and it captured a dog pissing on a lamppost.
Well, dogs do piss on lampposts quite often.
Do you have
I mean, I'd love to. I was thinking about if I had this earlier, and I forgot to mention it. But I don't know. It's so long ago. It was before camera phones. It was like I think I was trying to put a battery in like a digital camera, somehow took a picture, and
so
it was like.
It was post digital, but not. So you didn't have to get this developed in Boots or anything.
No, but it hasn't been backed up to Google Photos or anything.
Once you have a dog, you sort of become desensitized to dog piss and shit, though. You also become desensitized to how when dogs are pooing, they tend to lock eyes with you.
On that note.
Very intimate when they do that.
Like I said, you will find out in this here podcast.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. It really helps us get the word out. We're not just a podcast, of course. If you'd like to hear more from the team, then check out VG247.com for our fantastic news coverage, features, reviews, and game guides. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Transport links are pretty great here in Scotland. Your cars and aeroplanes, therefore, knobs, man.
Oh, fuck, sorry. Can you guys just deal with this for another week, and I'll do something different next week, I promise.
Across the Firth of Tay, there's only one way, ScotRail. Every minute,
I mean, it's being sung by a policeman, right? And police dogs are a thing. Just go with it.
Taking ScotRail, and not curtain rails or humpback wheels, no ScotRail. Up, Glasgow Central, and Rekeithing, Bathgate, Methil.
Methil does not form part of the ScotRail network.